Can you talk about some of the details of Lucille Ball's childhood? Because you mentioned the tragedy. Can you talk about some of the specific things that happened to her growing up?
Well, as I said, her father died of typhoid fever before she was 4 years old. She then lived with different relatives. Her mother remarried, but the stepfather wasn't very interested in having anything to do with her. And she wound up in a household that was led by her grandfather. She lived with a cousin who was basically like her sister, her mother, her aunt, and her younger brother, who was born after their father died. Actually, her mother was pregnant with Fred when her husband died. And then when she was in her teenage years and off in New York trying to pursue her career as a model and actress, there was a tragedy that broke apart the family. Her brother had gotten a shotgun for his birthday, and the kids were playing with it in the backyard. And anyway, it accidentally went off and hit a neighbor kid in the back. And I mean, it went off on purpose, but they accidentally fired a shot that hit a neighbor kid in the back and paralyzed him. And ultimately, he died of his injuries later. And this led to their grandfather, their father figure, losing his house and being sued and so on. And Lucy spent the whole rest of her life, in a way, trying to recreate that nuclear family that had been blown apart by this tragedy. And when she got to Hollywood and became a working actress, she got a little house that still exists here in Hollywood, and she moved her family with her out to Los Angeles so they could all be together again. So that really affected her very deeply, I think, in the sense of she was always trying to, pardon me, recreate a stable home environment, and that was
Yeah.
important to her in her relationship and her marriage with Desi when she wanted very badly to have kids and a life and kind of the white picket fence life she'd never really had.
Yeah, yeah, she said, "It destroyed our life," rightly so. That's an incredibly tragic thing to go through as a family, especially when you're starting to launch your career.
Yeah, no,
I think I think it's fair to say that, Lucy's early career had a steadier rise than, Desi Arnaz, especially, once they both got to Hollywood, and part of that's because Desi got drafted, I think it was 1943, and then he comes back in 1945. He's basically sidelined by MGM. Do you think that Desi privately resented Lucy's steadier rise in Hollywood at that time?
I think there must have been ways in which inevitably he felt a certain jealousy about it. He was 6 years younger than she was, and he struggled because of his accent, because of his status as a Latino in a culture that was, kind of monochromatic at the time. Lucy never became a big, huge breakout star in Hollywood either, but she was a steadily working actress. By the time she met Desi, she'd already made 60 movies, and she had steadier work than he did. He was only cast in a certain limited niche of parts, for the Latin singer, the Latin band leader, the colorful, comic relief or something like that. And as you say, when he came out of the service, he decided that he was, not really making it in Hollywood. So he went back on the road with his band. Lucy's own career was kind of stalling out as she was approaching 40. But she got a radio show that was in the last era of network radio. She had a sitcom called My Favorite Husband. And when CBS wanted to transfer that show to television, which was becoming increasingly popular in 1949, 1950, 51, she only wanted to do it if she could have Desi play her husband, which he, of course, was in real life, because she wanted to keep him at home and off the road
Yeah.
and away from other women. And she wanted to have a family. And then finally, after struggling and several miscarriages, she did get pregnant, and she gave birth to Lucy Arnaz, their daughter, just weeks before I Love Lucy wound up going on the air in 1951.
Mm.
And so that was really the origin story of how I Love Lucy came to be. Was they were trying to both save their careers and save their marriage.